Hello everyone. So today we're going to be exploring all the libraries that I used to build my front-end application with React. Let's get started. So the first library is Tailwind. I've always hated writing CSS. I hated thinking of class names and IDs, and then I need to go to the CSS file to write them, especially when searching for the class name was such a hassle in a big CSS file. And then Tailwind came along. Now you can just write the property in the class without having to move around. It's just such a game changer. The many gripes that people have with Tailwind is that it looks ugly with the long class name. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care about that. Also, it used to be very slow, but since Tailwind 4 came out, it's very fast, so it's very good. The next library is ShadCN. So using Tailwind, they build ShadCN components that we can just copy paste into our application. This saves a lot of time for me. And before even ShadCN existed, I would just write one component in a project and I would just copy paste the same component in every project. So I was basically using ShadCN without ShadCN. So this is a game changer, especially when you need to make complex components like sidebars. I use ShadCN in every project. The next library is Zustand. So Zustand is a state management library. I've used almost all the popular state management library like Redux, Recoil, and Zustand stood out to me. The first time I used Redux, I could not figure it out. I did not know what to do. Felt really complex to me. I know that Redux Toolkit just came out and people say that it's better. I haven't tried it, but who knows. And then I used Recoil. Recoil is very simple in a small application, but when you use it in a big application, it becomes a big thing. Like especially when you're trying to filter out data from the state, it becomes such a big hassle. On Zustand, it is pretty simple. You just define a hook, and in that hook, you just define the functions, and then you just run with it. It's very simple. I've used it in many projects and I find it the most simple of all the state managers that I use. So the next library is Stack Query, which is the asynchronous state manager. So before this existed, so we used to fetch inside a use effect, handle the loading state, set the state all by ourselves, and it was such a big hassle. Most of the code was just boilerplate, but with Stack Query that reduces all of that. All we have to do is define this hook, and in that we just fetch our function, and then if you want to set the state, you can. If you want to cache the data of this function, you just need to cache it. It's very easy. The next library is React Hook Form. So before React Hook Form, I used to create dynamic inputs for all my form elements. I would create a state, and on change I would change that state. It was a big hassle. With React Hook Form, all you need to do is register the input and it will take care of the rest. It's very easy to use. And pairing up with React Hook Form, you have Zod. So Zod is a validation library. You can also validate your form with React Hook Form, but it's not as granular as Zod. So Zod, you can define some really granular stuff, so it's very helpful. The next library is GSAP. GSAP is an animation library, so when I need performant animation, I did use Frame of Motion as well, but I feel like Frame of Motion is not as performant as GSAP, so when I use subtle animations, I use GSAP. Next is Date FNS. So dealing with date is a big hassle, especially when you have different time zones and different locations. So Date FNS takes all the headache out. So when you're dealing with dates in your application, always use this library. Don't use the native JavaScript date. So the last library that I use is Husky. So Husky is a pre-commit hook library. So when you're about to commit to GitHub, it will run the commands that you preset in it so that you can't commit without fixing those errors. Many people don't like pre-commit hook. The reason I use it is when I complete a project and I go to deploy it and I run the build command, it gives me all the ESLint errors that I did not see before. Then I have to spend 1-2 days just fixing those errors, which is a big hassle. But with Husky, I can just fix those errors between each commit, so it's not that much. Those are all the libraries that I use. If you like the video, give this a like and subscribe. And if you want to support my content, you can buy me a coffee with the link below. I also have a website called softwareguide.dev where I give out consultations. So if you want to talk to me about software engineering or coding, so just hit me up. And that was pretty much it for today.